Welcome to Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests bring you leading-edge astrology conversations through a journey of soul growth patterns connecting astrology's energetic cycles. Get ready to understand your path in the cosmic roots of the stars.
Hello and welcome to everybody. This is September 11, 2022, and this is Talk Cosmos. I'm Sue Minahan, and we are leading conversations, awakening the authentic self, empowering your soul growth. And we thank you very much for tuning in, supporting, liking, all that good stuff that we do these days now that we're touching through the ozone, right? Tonight is going to be a wonderful talk about a subject that's obscure yet as ancient as can be. It goes back to the 2nd century BC with the great Ptolemy. Thank you, Sue. Forget the P, English and me, and I think we have other, anyway. And it's called Antiscia. That's the plural. The singular is Antician, whether you can remember that or not. But there is that little detail, and it's about reflected light on a cosmic basis with our zodiac as it stems from, as I'm saying, stem, because we have solstices from the north to the south, which is along with our meridian and our pole line, you might say, of the earth. So the light is, how do you capture light? Sometimes it's like cats, I don't know, but it is a very relevant reality that in my world constitutes everything. We have the solstices and we have the equinoxes, and we are a light system, the stars. We have a sun. That's how we live. So that's a very general reference. We'll find out a lot more detail because our guest today is Mr. Richard Smoot, who's been an astrologer for 50 years. And very well known on many platforms because Richard has been a professional for 50 years, which I think I'm repeating myself, but he has a BS in social work, an MPA, 19 years of direct services to astrologers and organizations, because his focus is guiding astrologers to their highest professional level. And some of these attributes, which I'll line up and say, will really present that wide screen that Richard Smoot has portrayed in the culture and the reality of our astrology world that's growing by leaps and bounds, it seems like. But Richard's emphasis in astrology is to empower clients to make their decisions, because we have free will in determining life. He's an astrologer consultant, speaker, author, writer, facilitator of workshops, and I'm sure I'm missing something besides brainstorm keeper, I'm sure. ESAR, now that's International Society of Astrological Research Operations Manager. He's also an ESAR certified astrological professional called a CAP. There are levels of professional authority, not authority. Oh boy. Anyway, there's got a word here. My brain is missed on that, but NCGR, National Council of Geocosmic Research. We refer to these as acronyms a lot of times, but they have full names and they're powerful. Journal publisher. And with the Organization for Professional Astrology, better known as OPA to many of us, a group leader. And most significantly, Richard Smoot is a recipient of the 2018 UAC, that's the United Astrology Conference, when you have these 4 organizations grouped together with the Regulus Award, which is a very prestigious award for those people of community service. Oh my goodness. I could launch a comedy routine. No, this is for community service. So thank you, Richard. It was really a pleasure. Hi.
It's wonderful to be here. It's nice to hear about myself.
Well, it's very true, writing a resume. But yes, I thank you. Oh, and also his URL is Astro Smoot, but you can find this also on Talk Cosmos. all that information. So Richard, and Antiscia is something that is very close to your heart, as you've said. You've studied for 25 years, and it's illuminated Jung's work that you've studied. Perhaps you want to tell us
I'll
about
just
that a
kind
little.
of give you an overview of it. I picked this up when I first started astrology. Raymond Merriman is my original teacher back in 1970 and 69, 70. And I just found it fascinating. And I just built up over the years a deeper level of understanding how this can be used. And so really that's primarily it. It has to do with shadows and reflections that you said earlier. Uh, it is light, but it goes obviously much deeper than that. Uh,
It's true, because from what I understand, and I've listened first to you and then subsequently because it's captured me too. And if we have the solstices, which have that, at the boy, I can see it in my brain and my tongue isn't working. But anyway, Gemini, Cancer, and then Sagittarius, Capricorn. So that as the light, it has to do with 30 degrees. So if it's 2 degrees Gemini, it's going to be 28
well, let's get
Cancer.
started. Let me
Okay.
just let's just get started.
All
Um,
right.
let's see. I'm going to skip this part here, and let's see. How do I do the next slide? Okay,
I
slide.
think you touch it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So as you mentioned earlier, this is Ptolemy is in the second century BCE, and the thing about that I'm going to look at carefully, and what piqued my interest with this is that what I found out about the Antiscia is that I considered us both social animals because we live among society. We have our social mores and morals. We have our etiquettes depending on what audience we're in. We'll say certain things in certain groups and won't say them in other groups. But at the same time, we're also animals, and we have the needs animals have. And in looking at Maslow's hierarchy of need, I won't necessarily name, they'll come along, but in fact, they're at the bottom there: food, water, rest, shelter, safety, security, and feelings of accomplishment and assessment. Without these things, we can just easily um, react if they become unbalanced. So I guess I'd like to kind of tell you how that can be unbalanced and give you some examples. Um, have you ever noticed, now if somebody's under stress, and let's say they have lost their home or are suffering through a divorce or something major in their life that seems to or that will um, become insecure with their shelter, with food or water. Um, that kind of pressure can put them under stress, and they may seem like something is abnormal with the person. You may not know what's going on in their life, but they can just seem a little off. Like, for example, I might say, someone says, I noticed Tom was really different today. He doesn't seem quite right. He really snapped at me. So they're just a little off, Sue. They're just a little off. And it doesn't have to be big. They don't
Mm.
have to be crying or threatening suicide, even though that can manifest.
Yeah.
Um, it's simply a reaction to the stress. However, once it becomes in balance again, once they gain that security, once, let's say, they get over the trauma of the divorce, um, they can come back to normal pretty easily. And my experience is that we can find out when these events will come up in a person's life. So we're coming deeping into the psychological use of these Antiscia points.
Another fascinating. Thank you, because purpose is so paramount. and detecting something just like any transit. So seeing that relationship, that it's connecting to the chart or to oneself or to an
Yes.
event, because and as we're talking too, I'll say to our audience, in other words, it's so true. There's many ways of expressing shadow or things that we don't recognize exactly about ourselves. And so that's and I appreciate your focus that this is a way to learn to turn on the light to, well, that's another way of looking at it. Go ahead, Richard.
So, so really, we have two, and this may sound really way out there, but my belief and what I use is that we operate two separate horoscopes. One is our social self, which is our tropical natal chart or your Vedic chart, whatever like your Rasa chart or whatever. But we also have our Antiscia chart, our solstice chart, if you want to use a simpler term. Um, and that represents our inner self. And both of them demand to be expressed. And typically they're in balance. But when life is challenged, we just don't always are
No.
the same. But I think it's important that we just kind of go over, if you don't mind, what an Antiscia is.
Oh, I'd love it. Yes,
Yeah.
this is
Okay.
important. Go ahead.
Yes. So, the two things, shadows and reflections, are an ancient symbolism that is relevant in all languages. In every language, in every culture on earth, there is a word or something that will represent a shadow. And you can see my artistic ability here.
It works. It's balanced. I could, I mean, it totally is. I love this.
But
I
of
have a
course, oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say about shadow, what I find so important, being somewhat of an artist myself, actually, is that we can't see unless we have shadow. It gives
That's
form, it gives
it gives
dimension.
form. As you see, the
Yeah.
sun is this would be kind of like our natal chart here. All right. It's shining down on us because we're the object that the sun is hitting, but the Antiscia is down here.
At the bottom,
Okay,
flat.
at the bottom.
Yes.
And so that's
For those people that can't see it, yes, it's a figure with on the ground a shadow, like Peter Pan's, right? Where's my shadow? It's not three
that's true.
dimensional.
I forgot we're on radio, and I guess
Well, we're
uh,
both. No, we're YouTube
I
and
know.
podcast. Yep, got it. I know, me too. I
Yeah,
have
it's I have a face for radio. That's it. Okay, now reflection. Reflection is again a term that's in all cultures, and it's used to the way light bounces off an object that's in front of you, much like a mirror. And I akin it to, you're walking down the street and you walk in front of a storefront, and there's the big window, and you can see yourself in it.
yes,
There's a reflection of yourself. Okay,
like a translucent form.
that's
Yes.
right. It's not real, but
No,
it's an image that is there.
that's,
Now, so this really kind of gets in the meat of the matter. So I'm going to skip a couple, if you don't mind.
oh, please. Oh, no, no. Just free reign.
Okay. So when you do a horoscope, the Antiscia, and I don't know if people can see my cursor, but this is the ancients looked at this. This actually comes from Matheca Firmus, and I made note of where I picked up this graphic. And um,
Yeah, we can't see the cursor, but that's okay. We can
it's
describe
a
it for
say,
those people that can't. So
but you're over in
please.
the first house area, and you see the Aries symbol. The Antiscia for Aries is straight across over to Virgo.
Yes.
And then with Taurus, if we're looking again below the horizon, Taurus over to Leo, the two fixed signs,
Yep.
and then Cancer to Gemini, or Gemini to Cancer. And you mentioned earlier that you have their Gemini, so you're going to have a lot of your Antiscia points in Cancer. but if we're looking at the northern hemisphere, we see that Pisces and Libra, Aquarius and Scorpio, Capricorn and Gemini are Antiscia points with each other.
Yes.
The other way of looking at this is, uh, and again, astrologers tend not to look at this particular kind of, if we were to take a chart and turn it sideways, okay, or take the universe and turn it sideways. So we're not looking at it from a north-south perspective. I mean, from a longitude perspective, but from a north-south. So this is a
Yes.
declination view.
Like
And
from the
it
North Pole looking right down, perhaps.
correct. Yes. So you could well, it's actually on the equator. So this is how the signs would appear on the equator. Um, so we have the tropical
True.
Capricorn down here. Again, this is the farthest the sun goes below the horizon, below the equator. And obviously, the summer solstice is up here, Tropic of Cancer. So as the sun moves from Aries to Taurus to Gemini, you can point out the Antiscia points. And same for below the equator with Pisces, Libra, and
You
so
know,
forth.
Richard, this is a beautiful slide for those that can't see it. And it takes some concentration to focus on. It's really true. And I have studied somewhat about sky astrology and our Earth. I know Gemini Bright goes over, and I love all that.
Yeah,
And so it's so fascinating. But here we have the equator. And if you've ever gone through Mexico, you'll cross the Tropic of Cancer, because that is north of the equator. And then if we were to go down below the equator to South America, we would go across the Tropic of Capricorn. So in other words, the sun travels between those two, which are like 23.5 degrees, approximately. It's actually a little
right.
less. But so I'm just mentioning to folks. But what I love about this slide, for those that can see it and those that can't, is it shows the angle, because we think of and how it would, anyway, it's a beautiful slide. So thank you. I won't muddy the waters anymore.
Okay, let's see here. I have to move the slide. Can't figure how I do that. Let's see.
Oh,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think you touch it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, so this is a very complicated chart that we really don't need. This is, you can find out here that if at the top here, if you have 1 degree Cancer, its solstice point will be 29 degrees of Gemini. Way too complicated.
No.
Let's move to something that's simple. You can easily figure out the Antiscia degree and sign, taking 30 degrees of the natal planet minus the Antiscia degree. And the planets exchange energy as follows.
Or
So it's
rather,
really, go ahead.
I think what you're saying, because you read that reading, is that you take 30 degrees, which is a house, one house,
Mhm.
and then whatever natal degree it is, subtract it, and then that becomes the Antiscia degree. You just reversed the words. That's all.
That is
Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
So, for example, if you have a planet at 10 degrees of Aries, then we're going to take that 30 minus 10, we get 20. And then the Antiscia of Aries is Virgo. So
Yes,
20
right across.
Virgo. Yeah, 20
It is
Virgo.
it's quite a little bit of a pattern to realize, but
Oh,
just having
yes.
any cheat sheet, having the horoscope with the lines, and then thinking what adds to 20. It works. Thank you, Richard.
Well, you could always use that, but
Now,
that's that's
a good guideline. Yes, it is. Yes, that's right.
okay. So, um, as you can see here, this is even another way of looking at it. I'm just showing the natal planet sign and the Antiscia point sign and how they're correlated.
And it is fascinating, as you had said, that all the fixed signs are actually square in that, so that,
Yes, that's
yeah, other
correct.
than that, they're like an inconjunct or a quincunx, however you want to
Right.
think of it, because if it's on, yeah. But and then again, this is because I like to remember in patterns, and I'm thinking for people that if one can think solstice, well, then immediately you have those buddies down at the bottom entering and exiting, which is Gemini, Cancer, or at the other end, the south end, it'll
Mhm.
be the Sag and Capricorn. So
Correct.
thank you. Okay.
So here's my buddy. I don't know if we're going to really go into this right now. I just want to see
Yeah, I
what.
don't know if we have time.
I
We
don't
have
think
a
we
couple of
do.
minutes. We might, maybe we should just discuss a little bit about some of the I know the psychological you've said, and some questions, because let's talk about shadow a little bit and then we can come back.
So I don't know how to exit this particular slide.
Oh, I think Nathan,
Yeah,
our
he got.
yes, thank
Thank you.
you. We're back to the beginning.
Yeah,
Well, those are very clear. And what I love is this idea that we can take these points and realize that there's going to be a shadow representation, because that's really what Antiscia presents to us, is this
that's
powerful
right.
light that is perhaps in an area that we don't just recognize of ourselves, but it's a message.
No,
Yes.
it's a message, and we're born an animal. We don't really socialize until we learn how to talk and recognize our parents and interact with the outside world. When we're an infant, our whole world has to do with shelter, food, water, housing, to be appreciated and loved. I mean, a baby unheld is a baby unloved, and they can
Yeah,
wither. They will wither.
they do.
Um, so, um, so what Jung is talk started. I was looking at some comparisons, and when reading Carl Jung's stuff, um, it came pretty clear to me that he was describing anima and animus, and I won't necessarily go into the psychobabble of the of him, but to me, it is an expression of it's an expression of what's going on inside of you. So if you have two charts, you can you can create this Antiscia chart from the formula that we just talked about a few minutes ago, using that and create a whole chart based on that. You can easily come up with what your Antiscia chart looks like. Go ahead.
Yeah, for instance, if we were to take, and this is, we have a couple minutes here, but if, like, for instance, let's go to the one of the solstices, like if we took Gemini and Cancer, the idea would be that, because astrology serves on this basis, a lot of astrology is offering us, like, your nature, there's nature to this, there's free will, how you're going to devise your own plot of earth, you could say, or how you're going to make your meal, but yet you're going to make a meal, to use that analogy. But
That's interesting you said that. I just, the thing about, um, and this can get us off into another radio program.
good.
It would be like, how much do you think we really do have control? What we have is
Mm.
the interplay between your ability to have free will and following a path. It's kind of like you're following a recipe, but you can always throw in extra salt
Well,
or
this
extra
is true.
sugar.
And what I like about that is because it is an eternal, whether it was all, not Faust, but anyway, a lot of the 19th century people, anyway, people, Hawthorne and whatever, I guess maybe is my literary. I'm getting tangled up in those details. But despite all that, because there are options within an archetype. And to me, that is so. Perhaps it's this duality, which there is with everything. We have even on Earth, we have a primary motion, we're spinning, we have the secondary motion, we're going around the Earth, around the sun, on the orbital path of that perceived, or that orbital path, ecliptic. But the point being is that if we have like I don't know if the word ordained, but that kind of goes along with the fate idea, that we have this snapshot of being born with these energies and this extra relationship, as you're calling, it's our choice whether we're going to reckon the shadow, or even have the willingness
Well, that's it.
to.
You have to recognize it first, you know. And if Tom in our previous example just starts to not bathe and he starts to smell because he's not taking care of himself, we as the public, as the social, say, "Ew,"
Yeah.
you know. And some friends may say, "What's going on, Tom? You need some talk to," and that's a good point for. Of someone who's in some kind of a stress to seek a counselor of some type or an
Yeah.
astrologer to work through that. But not every astrologer really uses this method. It's just a matter of having a consultation.
Many tools. It's
Oh
nice
yeah,
having the
and
kit, and it's a valuable one. It's since antiquity, and it has purpose. Thank you, Richard. We will be right back. We've had a great platform with Antiscia, or Anticion, if it's the singular, and I'm with Richard Smoot, and this is Talk Cosmos on September 11th, and we'll be right back. Thanks. While we take a break from this week's edition of Talk Cosmos, let's take a look at this cycle's archetype. We are currently in the yin period of Virgo. By leaving a cycle based on the creative manifested legacy of our highest creative form, the energy of Virgo completes the last sign below the horizon of the self and requires discernment to perfect oneself through the mental process of critical analysis. As a mutable earth sign duly ruled by Mercury, Virgo refines, heals, or fixes through daily routines, developing skills and services to control nature's chaos and maximize efficiency.
This is Martha Norwalk. Every Sunday morning, beginning at 9 a.m., thanks in part to the Ananda Institute of Living Yoga, we cover the world of animals. This week, September 18th, it's Behavior Training and Healing Sunday with me, and Talk with Your Animal or Human Loved Ones on this side or the other, and Personal Awareness Coaching with Natasha Venter. So plan to call in with your questions for either one of us or a personal reading with Natasha. Hope you can join us for Martha Norwalk's Animal World, Sunday morning, 9 a.m. to noon, right here on Alternative Talk, AM 1150.
Talk Cosmos brings you leading-edge astrological conversations with hour-long programs each week on KKNW. The show goes live every Sunday from 1 to 2 p.m. Pacific. Talk Cosmos weekly programs are also available to watch live on Facebook and YouTube, along with daily chats throughout the week on the Talk Cosmos YouTube channel. While you're there, make sure you click like and subscribe buttons so you can get the full Talk Cosmos experience. Or, if you'd rather listen to the show archives with audio only, the entire podcast collection since 2018 is available on most podcast carriers. So, grab your coffee, tea, or kombucha and enjoy the show.
Talk Cosmos is celebrating its 6th season and has a special gift for everyone listening to the show: a free mini transit reading from your natal chart. This reading can help you discover your life path forward and make you aware of current opportunities and challenges. Talk Cosmos Kaleidoscope Visions panel invites you to participate in this learning experience and to interact with the astrologers reading your chart in 2023 during the monthly Kaleidoscope Visions show. To schedule your mini transit reading, send the show an email at info@talkcosmos.com and find more information about the panel at talkcosmos.com. We look forward to connecting with you for a free natal chart mini transit reading with the Kaleidoscope Visions panel, scheduled every 4th Thursday of the month at 1 p.m. Pacific on Talk Cosmos.
Alternative Talk 1150, the talk of the sound.
Hi again, we're back. And since that time, and next year, 2023 will be our 6th season, not this year. So that's exciting. Thank you, Richard. We're back again and on a huge subject with lots of options. And I'm thinking, right now, most of the planets are retrograde. We have Mercury that's just stepped into that hallway, and we have all the outer planets. So it's really a time to, as we all call those rewords, reassess, rethink, replan. And with Jupiter, I was just noticing a sheet I have, it's that time where maybe we missed an opportunity. But so we have this opportunity idea, but really it is also when we might get confronted with some of those unseen shadows, as we call, of why things aren't working, and that part of our psyche. And besides that, our nodal process right now, this is all astrology talk, which is a lunar cycle of the nodal system, the north and the south. And we're in that releasing period, you could say, with Scorpio, which represents our psychological depth. And of course, there's always this, because what gets in the way? Everything has its strengths and everything has its weaknesses. That's my point. So what I'm getting at is that with Antiscia, that whole process, it really works ideally to also address areas that it might, almost beyond the social, where it's really psychological. There's something in us that we just because I will say today is 9/11, and for instance, it happened due to many reasons of, we can say, a political nature, we could say a spiritual nature, we could say it all kinds of different ways. And it addressed for the people of the world and for the country a lot of pain. And particularly if, like, I have two cousins that were at 9/11 and worked there and have health issues. And they were firemen, volunteer firemen, because my folks are from New York originally. Well, that's where they grew up. My dad came from Norway. But anyway, enough of that. Details. But so what I'm getting at is that we things come up in life that are serious, and we need to find ways of seeing how. So if it were like, maybe I'm pulling in so many parts here, or take England, that's lost their queen right now. This is a Commonwealth serious situation where they have this person that's changing the fabric of some kind of context. Even people that have said on the news that they were kind of surprised that they felt this way. So what I'm getting back to is, if we take like Gemini and Cancer, or it could be Sag, and I'm thinking one's close to the solstice. So in other words, the opposite sign would have maybe something in that would be a shadow part of them. Like, let's say it's Capricorn and Sag, and a Capricorn has a Sag Antiscia point, or Antician point for the singular, that maybe they have some kind of a righteousness about their attitudes within their structure of thinking that they are not even looking at. Would that be it?
I've never looked at it that way. So
Oh, okay.
no,
I see.
the point is with Antiscia is that, once you set up an Antiscia chart, it's a bi-wheel, two wheels together, and you typically put your the natal chart in the center. So the outside wheel is your natal wheel, okay? And the outside chart is the Antiscia chart. And anytime that a transit, progression, solar arc, or any other of our techniques that we use hits that point, hits one of the Antiscia points, it will set off a possible way in which the person's going to show a reaction between their natal self and their social animal self. Okay. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now,
it
the
does.
retrogrades, now, apart from Antiscia point, when you have a planet, you have to look at your natal chart. And if you have a transit that is the same. That was like you look back at the same time many years ago when you had this repeating transit. Let's say we're looking at Saturn, and Saturn goes retrograde. All right. Look at the times in your life, like your whole life, and map out when Saturn was retrograde in your chart. I mean, SolarFire does this,
Absolutely.
software programs, but it's also SolarFire does it, and um, uh, Kepler does it.
Or even
S-
an ephemeris, an
what-
old-fashioned
oh, you got
ephemeris.
oh yeah, one of those. Yeah,
Or astro.com, I
yeah.
suppose they have one too. You could
So the point is that you're going to relive the experiences that you have, but you're going to relive it as a more mature person, as an older person. So you'll still have those same issues come up, but it's have you dealt with them or have you not dealt with them? With Mars going retrograde, um, Mars, and I have a different use of keywords. Mars is simply action to attain a goal. I don't
yes.
look at this anger and
It's instinctive. It's
battle.
instinctive.
It,
It's
it's
fire.
just it's just simply act and to accomplish something. Saturn's getting down to the basics. It's not really anything more than that. Um, I'm so
Like, what's the foundation? How am I going to
yeah.
build
What is
on
the
that? Yeah.
foundation? What's the right? What is the foundation? Mercury is speech and talk and communication, things of that nature.
How
And
to
so,
connect it.
um, but as far as Antiscia goes, it's important just to, if you have if any of your listeners have software, it's easy to build up. Um, the easiest way to reach me, and I probably should have stopped you earlier, the astro.com website does not exist any longer. I'm still, I'm
Oh,
still, I'm still building a new one. I had to eliminate that one. So if you reach me, it's astrosmoot@gmail.com. And I'm more than willing to work with your listeners and even like do the chart of theirs if they give me the correct birth information. I could give it to them. It's not a big deal.
that's fabulous. It's fabulous. Yes, you do have quite a legacy with astro.com. Is that with Astro Dienst now, or is it different,
Well,
or how does that?
it's Astrodienst is astro.com. It's their
That's what I thought.
platform.
Yeah.
Yes, I owned for years. I owned Lois Rodden's
Mm.
birth information that she had with the Rodden rating and so forth. I owned that website, and I sold it to Alois, the owner of Astro.com and Astrodienst, a number of years ago. And so it had it was given to me by um, several people, but Lois gave it to me with her blessings,
Yeah.
and
As
uh,
a steward.
as a steward. And so I sold it to Alois, and it's now part of many programs. David Cochran, in his
Mm.
Cirrus and Kepler programs, has put it right into the software. So you can
Oh,
do research, all kinds of research with it. And you're dealing with, and it's the software that I had doesn't exist any longer, but you were able to do all kinds of research with it. And
and research is really where astrology is
it has to happen.
pointing. It
Yeah,
is because
well, it has to happen. I mean, astrology without research is just make believe.
it gives empirical information. It's true. And I know that David Cochran does vibrational astrology, which ultimately all astrology represents. I don't know if
And
represents, but it
I'm taking
consists.
I'm in David's courses
Oh,
as well as Linda Berry. I'm taking
Linda
TA courses.
Berry's been on. I'll have the two of you on together. I would
Ooh,
love that. Linda's been on several times, and I do love her whole context of because I wanted vibrational. I've been wanting to go to David's conference for years, but distance and travel is not always so easy.
Well, if your audience is interested, on YouTube, if you look up David Cochran and David Cochran VA Astrology, he probably has 50 different
YouTube's
videos.
he's fabulous.
Well,
Yeah.
he's a machine. How can I
He's
describe that?
you can definitely binge and happily until your mind and soul is so weary. And you spell that Cochrane.
That's
And
correct.
yeah, and Linda now has her I think it's Astro Sleuth that is it
That's
Astro
correct.
Sleuth? Yeah, .com that Linda has. And she has a wonderful daily diary that she puts out just if you email her for free, and every single day you get these wonderful accounts and a running account of the Sabian symbols. And in fact, that somewhat inspired me to that one of the panels I have, we do the new moon and we use the Sabians, all of it. It's like how along with the energy. So back to tools and Antiscia, which all of this relates somehow, but with this idea of the insightful prospect of looking. It's interesting. If we were to use, because we don't have a chart immediately to bring up, but Mercury went retrograde at 8 degrees, 8 plus change of Libra just a few days ago on the 10th. And so if we were to do just a simple Antiscian, that would be 22, because folks, 8 and 22 add up to 30. Now, granted, it might be a little less, might be the 7 and the 21, but we're going to round it off. So it's 8 and 22. So, and if you go across, Libra above the horizon goes over to Pisces. Neptune's right about at that point.
Bingo.
So, any thoughts?
Well, think it over. We have a planet. What you're saying? What was retrograde? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Say what again? Yeah.
What planet are you talking about?
Mercury retrograde.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
that's fine.
So if it's hitting its solstice Neptune, okay, then that Neptune, which is the ideal. It's Neptune is not just sacrifice, or it's faith. It is trust versus mistrust, but primarily it's about fantasy and what your ideals are. So
Imagination.
it would come up in an animal self as the expression of your needs, expression of your fantasies, the expressions of where you want to go in life. So that's how you might use that in a transit chart.
Well, that's very powerful. Thank you, Richard. Because right now we have Jupiter leaving the early degrees of Aries, because it only went up to 8. And it's amazing how 8 is like ricocheting all over the charts. It seems like it's either starting at 8 and going back, or coming to 8 and going forward. But anyway, so if people have 8 in their charts, I think you might be inspired or triggered or activated, we could say, for a lot of things. But here we have, so in other words, it's retreating, as we might say, or repeating, whatever, through the early degrees of Aries to get into that luminous Pisces of imagination,
right?
The womb. So here we have a lot of, and it dissolves. I mean, there's all these attributes to it. So perhaps a time to see if our imaginations can be grounded into manifestation as they all go forward, or if they're just delusional.
But the thing with Neptune is, and if you want to use it in any way you can, it's there to use it. If you want to take it as something that is illusionary, you don't have to accept that. You can just go ahead and use it for the purpose that you'd like to use it for. So if you want to bring a dream forward, it's the time to do it. It's the time to do it.
Oh,
You know,
that's a great Aries. I love it. Yes, like
well, you just
do.
well, you just have to seize the opportunity,
Yes,
and
that's right.
seize the opportunity.
There's
Now,
really
further down the road, you may find out, oops, that wasn't exact. Because again, how things go about manifesting will depend on all the other transits and things that are going on in your chart. So it could be if you're looking, it might be a misstep that you want to correct it down further down the road.
and life is like that. It is. It's a fabric,
Mhm.
a evolutionary process, however we want to call it, and through all these terms. Well, it really has a lot of hope, I think, that
Yes.
because the retrograde periods are that second step. I suppose if it's Cancer, it might go sideways. It might be so natural. But for a power ahead, let's just instinctively do things, or not maybe look at the details, whatever the nature of the energy might be that one's working with. When you think of all the things in our chart, it can be some frustration. But yet, through that process, if one is wanting to be aware, it's promising a lot of good tidings.
Yes.
That's nice. Yeah, so we're in the retrograde right now, and with the thought. So Antician, when you did Sheen,
Yes. Charlie Sheen.
Charlie Sheen, which really hit the news several years back, and without going into all its chart, was there a central there must have been like a central key in that chart of Antiscia. I keep trying to remember which is plural and not, that kind of illuminated you to think, like, had he some insights or astrological guidance that he could have recognized?
Well, if Nathan can do this on the PowerPoint slide number 22. Let's
Yeah,
see. Let
you
me.
can click it with your hand. There you go. Perfect.
There we go. Right
Thank you,
there.
Nathan.
Yes, thank you. So here we have, and was during his meltdown back in 2011. He had this with Snoop Dogg. He had this, I think, torpedo tour, and he really became unhinged. And what we're doing here is I'm looking at his natal chart. So as always, you look at the natal chart. The ruler of the chart is Mercury,
Mercury.
and you just have to find your Mercury over here, okay, and in the 12th house, so over there. But what we're
At the
seeing
ascendant.
at this,
Pardon me if just for our non-visual. Go ahead. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Now he has his Venus. That is our ability to attract, our ability to see things that are beautiful. Expression of beauty is in his 11th house. At this particular time, um, the Antiscia Saturn is right on top of his Venus. So that can be a withholding of the beauty nature. It also can be a shifting of that particular nature, or a denial of that particular love nature or beauty nature.
Yeah, some
Oh,
limit, some
yes,
limitation. Yeah.
it's definitely involved. He was going through a nasty divorce, and you can see where that his natal Venus in the 11th house is hitting all of these, actually making a square to this Venus and Mars in his Antiscia. Now, it's just
Tension.
a point.
Yeah.
It's not the seventh. It looks like it's in the 7th house, but Antiscias are not placed in the chart. It's not.
Oh,
You can't read it. I have
they're like
Antiscia
satellites that are attached to
because
the.
it's a reflection. It doesn't
Mm,
exist in the natal chart. So
Okay.
it's really empty. So but for us that are looking at the Antiscia, we'll just say that it's hitting his solstice Venus Mars principle.
Yeah.
Okay, so his animal self is going to be coming out at this point.
And
Okay.
yeah, and partly it happens to be in Sagittarius, which has a lot to do about the natural world too. So it must have been a streak of freedom that he wanted to be liberated from. I would
Well,
think
the
immediately.
the biggest thing that set him off, at least psychologically, is that his progressed ascendant at 13 degrees of Cancer is making a T-square between an opposition that he has between Pluto and Saturn.
Ah,
So he, if we're looking at what the ascendant means, it's the path we're walking down right now.
and it could
And
be, and pardon, I'm kind of interjecting for
yeah,
people's thinking, but control. Is he ready to release the control that maybe he's trying to exert that isn't, or his sense of power, empowerment? Maybe he's feeling no power or not having power. I'm thinking Pluto and Saturn and that tension action there with all of this, that's
well,
part of it.
if you look at that chart, that Pluto is also conjunct Uranus, and
Mm.
in the VA terms and vibrational astrology terms, Pluto is obsessive. Okay, it goes down deep, but it's this obsessive. And Uranus, it just doesn't give a damn. It'll just do what it does,
It goes
and
on its sides
and
and backwards.
it doesn't care about the consequences now or in the future. I'm just going to do it. And it's making this opposition to Saturn, who wants to get at the core of craziness.
Yeah, like we have a foundation and we're working on something, and I see that maybe you're out here and but hey, we've got work to do. I mean, this is like,
Yeah. So I hopefully this, I don't know, that I hope this example
Mm.
kind of shows how this works between the animal self and, gets, you can see his natural tendencies. He's into film, he's a movie star. So we have Neptune right at his midheaven. And it's very close, within 4 degrees of his midheaven. He has Mars right next to it, so he's a very active film person. He wants to accomplish something through his ideals. Okay, so you can read his chart, his natal chart. If you see that, we talked about his marriage. He's been married 3 times. We have Jupiter as his ruling planet over here, Lord of the seventh, as they say. And then we see that Jupiter natally is down his second house. So it's kind of like a possession. Okay. But that
oh, I have a
solstice
yes.
Jupiter is sitting right on it. In VA, Jupiter says big. It's big. Let's do it big. And with solstice Jupiter on it, it's for my animal self, I'm going to do something that's really big.
Now, this is a great example. Exactly. It expands. Jupiter is the
Yeah.
planet of expansion. It's the biggest in the universe, I mean, in our solar system anyway, but it's very true. And it's the beyond, it's like traveling and also up for people. I'm listening. But here you have like a solstice point that's exactly, well, it shouldn't one of it be 29? Why are they both 1 degree? I mean, the computer did that, but
Right. Yeah. No, that's
it,
that's going to be correct. Yeah, that this is a progression. It's not a
it's a progression.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, very good. Because it is a deep, deep subject. Okay. Yeah. Because progressions, folks, is another technique of measurement, which astrologers use. And for those of it that you are. And so this is good.
Progression, you can look at a progression as how you mature in life. How you this is growing old, simply growing old.
Which, yeah. Using those experiences we have, right?
Yes.
I mean, they've
That's right.
got to be, yeah, it's always a matter. We have a few minutes, we have a moment here. We don't have to just, I used to say goodbye and that was it. Well, that is the glory of it, because if we're going to live a full, complete life, we want to get through those little jagged areas so that our
It's,
flow,
it's being your authentic self.
yes, I think that's really superb. I thank you, Richard.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So, folks, to find out more at any point, because Richard does consultations, it's Astro Smoot. And if you get lost, go to Talk Cosmos. I have it on
At gmail.com.
yeah, at gmail.com. Yeah.
Thank you, Sue.
Well, thank you. We'll talk to Linda. This could be fun.
Okay.
In fact, I'm thinking of a date already. Okay. All right.
Thank you for joining us on Talk Cosmos, the show where Sue Minahan and her panel of guests connect soul growth patterns with the energetic cycles of astrology. Be sure to tune in next Sunday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time to continue your journey through the roots of the cosmic pathway.